So, I ran into what's apparently called the Gate of the Gods or the Gate of the Gods. It's in what is it called? Sorry, 1 second here. Aramu Muru. So I had to do some digging, like extensive, I guess you could call it extensive research. I had to look up, first of all. So I want to do this astrologically, but specifically micro-astrologically. So using asteroids, dwarf planets, even fixed stars, which ties in with galactic astrology. But what I found was okay, so my research was this is kind of exciting. Apparently, so it's a portal to Orion's belt. But when I did some research on it, apparently, and this is probably wrong, I don't know, they said that it's often tied to Hyadum 1, the fixed star Hyadum 1. I believe, what is that in, um, where is that from? Item 1 is in the constellation of Gam Taurus, the Taurus constellations. Gamma Tauri. That information could be wrong because I did it through AI. I was being a little bit lazy. Um, but what I discovered was based on that. This could be inexact at all. Like, I'm sure it feels kind of inexact. But because it's tied to item 1, I had to look up the fixed star. I added it to the chart. But before I even drew up the chart of the place, I had to ask, I was like, when was this discovered? When was this, when was the place mapped out? Not the place itself in the past, because that's hard to track. That's like thousands of years ago, thousands of years ago. Um, but the best I could find was through the coordinates. So I was like, huh. So I did some research on coordinates, like the actual coordinates found on Wikipedia. Um, and I tried to look up the research on that, like what was it? Where can I find a date? So I decided to ask like Google, it's like, can we find out when the coordinates were mapped out, like when, as close as possible to the date. And they told me to look into historical imagery in Google Earth. I did, and I found the date. I was like, that's really recent, 2023. But then I noticed like a scale, a timeline. So I kept going back and back. The earliest I got, literally to the beginning of it, was January 1st, 1970. And I was able to find it. So that's what I'm going to use for the dates, for the chart itself. But I also found like the closest place to it, apparently it's in the town of Chiquito. Chiquito? Is it Chiquito? Chuquito in Peru. They said it's Titicaca, Lake Titicaca, but it's such a big lake. So Chiquita is the closest one I can find. I could do more extensive research on this, but I'm kind of getting tired. So again, we don't know what time it was. So it's hypothetical 12 p.m. noon time. So there's no houses mapped onto this one. So what I found was, and based on all my research also on, first I looked at portals. I'm looking for any sort of attachment, any aspect linked to Haidam 1, the fixed star. And what I found was, first of all, nothing on the portals based on my research, because portals usually tied to Ceres, who was actually, she was tied to portals because she was the gateway to the story of her was Demeter. So she's kind of the ancient Greek equivalent of the mother of Persephone, or Proserpina in Roman mythology. Proserpina, Ceres, Demeter, Persephone. So she would travel. Her daughter would travel back and forth. She represents portals, and I noticed that same thing with Cernunnos, the Celtic god of abundance. It's tied actually in my charts. That's how I know he's also portals, but all at the same time based on the mythology. So based on my extensive research on my interpretation of each one of each body, that's what I found. Core is also a portal, and there's a bunch of other ones as well. Um, Cupid is technically, first of all, portals are with Ceres, Quoar, Cernunnos, and Sirona. She was the goddess of forest fires or something like that, or was it something else? I totally forgot. The point is that she's tied to portals. Then I couldn't find anything linked directly to Haidam 1. Kept looking, I was like, what's another thing for portals? Oh, isn't it doors or doorways? So what I found was um Hathor, Nephthys, Ptah, ra-shalom, I think is also portal. Yeah, portal. And Perun. I couldn't find any link to directly to Haidam. The, then I kept looking and I said, what's another way to call it? It's like hole. So the one thing I found was because there are several of them. Cassandra is actually also portal, by the way. Or is it doorway? Yeah. So anyway, so I found Cassandra is the closest link to that. So that proves to me that, and it's sextile to Haidam. It's in Leo. Being that it's in Leo, it shows to me that this was discovered by people like who were head of governments or have gets some kind of leadership position. It was done out of curiosity, right? But efforts were put into finding this because I'm linking it to Haidam. If Haidam 1 is linked to this doorway, then that means that's what it is. Okay. So we're talking about the hypothetical map of this doorway. Again, we don't know the exact dates in the past. We would have to backtrack way back thousands of years ago to be able to find the actual chart for this one. Then we would get the actual date, I would say. That would make more sense. I didn't do the whole channeling thing. I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to go straight purely astrology. Um, I do see Haidam though. It's trine to Uranus, which means that Haidam here, being part of this portal, means that it is a channel to something else that's different, right? Um, and it's also a type of sort of healing, and it's totally true. That makes sense because it's been used to Uh, Chiron is not portals. Chiron is integration. So that totally makes sense why it's tied to Chiron. There's a sextile placement to Chiron here. So it's in Aries. It's initiative to heal through knowledge and knowing, but through the mind itself. Haidam is in at this when in January 1, 1970, because they said the dates were 1996 is when it was discovered. The place Aramu Muru. But for some reason, it was actually mapped out first in 1970, January 1, 1970, um, which is in, by that time, the fixed star Haidam 1 was in Gemini. So to me, that signifies a lot of knowledge. Like it was like brought into this neighborhood planet. It was brought into here. There's a connection. There was a transmission of information, knowing about it, that connection. So it's sort of almost like, I don't know what it is, something to do with like there's some sort of I would feel like it's tied to some sort of underrated potential that it's sort of opened up the doors for something like that. Um, yeah, so it's trying to Uranus in Libra, which means that there was some sort of breakthrough done as well. I mean, it was discovered in Libra, meaning that there was a coordination or what do you call it, collaboration done to find this, or at least to map it out. Um, and then at the same time, that's funny, Chiron is sextile to Haidam 1, but Chiron is actually also here trine to Neptune and Cernunnos, but Cernunnos is portals. So this is magical. So I don't know about you, but to me, that's what it feels like. So I'm going to share with you what I discovered. Here's what it looked like. Dun, dun, dun. Sorry, stop. Doing. So here it is. So you can see right here that I was talking about. Um, Cernunnos right here is conjunct Neptune, which means that it's transcendent to Chiron, and Chiron sextile to Haidam 1. Haidam 1 is the bottom here. You can't really see it, but you can see Hyad there. And Hyad is trine to Uranus, but you can see Haidam is sextile to Cassandra. In fact, Cassandra is actually trying to Chiron. So there's some sort of portal to where Item 1 is the fixed star as a potential for healing and integration and connection and lessons in teaching and re-immortalization, if that makes sense. The kind of like letting go of the wounds we have about who we thought we were. This was you can say, adventure point to healing, and at least knowledge of it through healing. It's in Aries, so that means it's starting off. It's initiative was done to find this place. Um, what else do we have here? There were some challenges with, I would say, businesses and limitations with old traditions, possibly, or maybe because it was breaking traditions. Because retrograde Saturn here shows me that there might have been sort of like, it was completely different. There might have been challenges when it comes to having beliefs about this whole thing. It's like it was unearthed, it's in Taurus, so it's square to Cassandra. That totally makes sense. Because Cassandra is also about not being believed. So that totally makes sense. And yes, and then you have a square to Mercury here with Saturn retrograde. That totally explains that it was like this unconventional way of discovering just there's unusual fears about this or unconventional um, breaking of limitations, or rather the sort of restructuring of this whole idea that it was kind of just like there was questions about it. It was very much like, is this really a fact thing? Is this what is going on here? And big businesses and funding probably were involved in this, foreign relationships. But it's tied to core here. Core is also portals. That totally makes sense. So this portal kind of opened up for a previous portal, you can say, previous something that was precursor to this, to finding it out that maybe there was challenges to funding with this whole thing, like being discovered, and actually like maybe there were resistance behind it, which is actually funny because Cassandra here is tied to Sirona, which is also portal, and Hyadum right here, and Hyadum is actually to Uranus right here. So there's that again, this belief when it was first discovered, at least in January 1st, 1970, or at least when this was mapped out. So I'm seeing here a lot of things going on with how this is. If I were to look at the sun right here, I see, where is it trying to Nephthys. So this is the opportunity for this whole body of it to, this whole entire system, I guess you could say the leadership, or the what I'm looking for, the search for it would have to be founded in foundational basis, like restructured. That's why sun here in Capricorn. Uh, it's even conjunct Venus and also Cupido and also Ptah, which means that again, more portals, more gateways, holes to discover this had to be proven somehow. It had to provide wisdom to it. It was trying to neft this as a portal. So there are a bunch of portals involved in this so that you can find the actual portal itself, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. Perun is also here in the south node, conjunct the south node. That means that it was also opened up to be discovered by doing the little things, doing the little work. Um, Action was taken once it was believed to be taken, which we have sextile Mars here to the Sun, and also sextile North Node, sextile to Nephthys as well. That to me right away shows me that this was intended to be mapped up, intended to be discovered. So I think that's about it. That's as far as I'm going to go with this one because I don't want to read too much into it. It's up to you how do you just to interpret that chart. Do your own research if you want to. I can go on forever, but I don't want to. I'm running out of energy. So I hope that kind of provides some insight that it's like, this is wonderful stuff. Awesome. Anyways, I'll see you guys later. I hope that's good. Thank you for watching. Bye.